disadvantaged business enterprises. Those are organizations, they're businesses that are owned and operated at least 51% by women, people of color, veterans, disabled, or there's some economically disadvantaged areas in the state that that can be certified then as small businesses. That means on those, when they're certified, we have goals on city projects to contract with these certified targeted businesses. So what we wanted to find out was, what are the barriers for these businesses to contracting with the city on both city CIP and DMC funded projects? Because we want to make sure that we are providing opportunities and access. And so we wanted to do reflection, both, and we'll get into the scope a little bit, but we really did look they looked for us, researched, and I'll get into the methodology, but we did post an RFP and asked and solicited for proposals for this study. Back in, I think it was the end of November. December is when the proposals were due. And we reached out to organizations that we thought had at least some experience in this area of targeted business, disadvantaged business enterprise contracting. We got 6 proposals, and one was international, and then we had a couple from out of state and a few here from within state, and one a local. But we ended up going with Mackey Company. They're based in St. Paul. I don't know if any of you know Lynn Pingle. She has had contracts with MnDOT and is very versed in DBE training, disadvantaged business enterprise training. She had a team she put together for this study specifically to conduct research for us. Mitchell Davis, he has both contracting and healthcare background. He was the one who interviewed, let me think, Chow, was he on, I want to say the general or the prime contractors, but I think Bernard was contracting or was connecting with the prime contractors. And then Jared Peterson has a technology business. He was interviewing the actual DBEs, the small disadvantaged business enterprises locally. He interviewed a few. Ayo, did he interview you?
Yeah, she was supposed to, but I mean, I wasn't available at that period to be interviewed, but I was part of a focus group though.
Yeah, okay, you were able to attend a listening session?
No, focus group.
A focus group for the study?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, good, thank you for participating. So we wanted to interview professional technical services as well as contractors who work in construction. On our side from the city, it was I was mostly involved, and then Chow is my supervisor. Kevin Bright, some of you might already know him, and of course you know Wafa. And so what we would like to do after we have a chance to sit down and really look at the recommendations, we will, like I said, be taking some recommendations forward to our boards. Okay, let me go back to here. We're jumping too far ahead. This slide should, can you see? Yep. So what we did first is we talked a little bit about history, and some of you may know some of this history and were probably involved with some of this history making. When Destination Medical Center first started in 2013, the legislation included language to ensure that we were providing opportunities for contracting for these targeted businesses as well as workforce participation. It was a couple of years later when the city of Rochester adopted an official targeted business enterprise utilization plan that was drafted. And then a couple years later in 2017, when we actually had the first DMC funded project that had these goals. For a couple of years, the city outsourced management of these targeted business contracting to a company called SRF. If some of you are familiar with them, they're an architecture engineering firm based in the Twin Cities. And then I was hired along with a few other project managers in April 2019. And I took over management from when SRF was contracted to do that. In addition to basically what they were doing was the monitoring and controlling of the contracts and workforce and prevailing wage. But I wanted to do a little bit more. I wanted to not just manage the monitor and control. I wanted to make some change right in this community. And I wanted to help these businesses start up, learn how to obtain bonding and how to bid. So I have really been working with the businesses to what they call capacity building, not just growing the number of locally owned targeted businesses, but their abilities and capabilities. I know some of you have been in on some of our workshops, and I appreciate all your support and connections to your communities to invite people to the table to learn more so we can really engage them and help them grow their businesses. Okay, so that's what I've been doing the last few years. In addition, then to the DMC funded projects, City Council approved these targeted business contracting goals on city CIP, that's capital improvement plan projects, and we're phasing that in over the next couple of years still. Back also in June 2020, we did raise the goals slightly in targeted business contracting, really only in the commercial construction. Heavy civil and all projects before were 4% of contracts. So on $1 million, that would be $40,000 would go to, the goal would be to go to a targeted business subcontractor. And in commercial construction, our goals were 4%, were raised to 7%, which they are at now. And that's very modest, which is something maybe we could consider in the future. So as I was saying, we are phasing in these goals on city CIP projects. This year, projects valued at 1 million or more have these goals. And between city and DMC projects, we have about 20 projects right this year that have targeted business contracting. Next year, projects valued at 500,000 or more. And then in 2025 and beyond that, projects valued at 175,000 or more will have these targeted business contracting goals. And the reason that we decided on that number, that is the competitive bidding base rate that we are required by law to have competitive bids on. Below that amount, below that threshold, decisions are made differently. So I just wanted to share how we have been doing up to this point on both DMC funded projects and city CIP projects. So like I said, a couple slides back, the DMC projects have been going on since 2017. So 6 years now. We have a huge main contract on our Link Rapid Transit project. And for the architecture, engineering, and design, those professional technical services, we've also had professional services for Riverfront Small Area Plan, that was last year, and 6th Street Bridge project. Right now, we just had an RFP out and are in the process of contracting for the land acquisition for the Rapid Link. So those are some of those projects, and we've had $1.6 million in those types of contracts with targeted businesses that are, women, minority, small businesses in the professional technical services. In the heavy civil construction projects, those are the streets, sewers, and sidewalks. We have a 4% goal. and we have actually exceeded that goal. We've had 6% targeted business contracts at $6.4 million. And then in commercial construction, that's where we raised the goal a bit a few years ago. Our goal is now 7%. And but they are, when I say we, they have been more private investment projects than publicly funded projects. But DMC is contributing to those. And there's only been one publicly funded project when I'm in the commercial construction, and that's the Chateau Theater. So we have seen up to about 20% targeted business contracts on some of those commercial projects, and those that specific 20% project is the Mortensen 1 Discovery Square and 2 Discovery Square. They have been up at the 17-18% targeted business contracts. And I have had discussions with them because a majority of their contracts with the targeted businesses are women-owned businesses, and they are really trying to improve also on their minority-owned business contracting.
Jorrie, question.
Mm-hmm.
The idea is that the subcontractor needs to be factored in. Is that the idea? Right? General contract could be Mollison, but what you're looking for is a subcontract contribution need to be of certain proportion.
Right. It's very rare that we have a prime contractor that's a targeted business. I think in one of the 5 scopes on Discovery Walk project, we did have a contractor bid as a prime that was a targeted business. But mostly what we're talking about here are subcontractors. At some point, a subcontractor may have a general contractor's license and may be bidding on as a prime, and especially as the thresholds decrease and we have some local subcontractors who are growing their capacity, I believe that we will see some bidding as primes, and then that would be 100% of that project would be considered as a targeted business contract. So then now I'm going to tell you the results, how we're doing on City of Rochester capital improvement plan projects. And this has really only been going on the last 15 months because there were no projects in 2021 that met the threshold of $5 million. But last year our threshold was projects valued at 3 million or more. And just a few months of bidding so far this year. In the heavy civil construction is really what the city does most of its construction. Then a couple of those projects would be like the 65th Street Northwest project. We have the 9th Street Duct Banked project. And there's quite a few, of course, this year, streets and sewer projects continuing on. So we've had so far our $1.7 million in contracts going to these targeted businesses over the last 15 months on heavy civil projects. And in commercial construction, those 3 projects that we have classified as commercial are the Cascade Lake Park project and the 2 downtown building energy transition projects. Those are, well, Mayo Civic Center, Art Center, and City Hall. They're actually 2 projects, but 3 buildings. We have had a total of 329,000 in targeted business contracts on those projects. It's in commercial construction, we are struggling a little bit to meet that 7% goal. And one of the projects was actually at like 1.6% targeted business contracts. And that was a very unique situation. It was actually the Cascade Lake Park project. We had one bidder and they came in a couple $1 million over bid. So that project actually had to be rescoped in order to meet the project budget, as well as then it was price sensitive, right? To get everything we wanted out of that project, it was a very tight budget. And Still working closely with the prime contractor to make sure, they are providing all of the opportunities that we explored together. And it was not taken lightly when we asked them to file good faith efforts. They had to really explain to us what they did and to obtain or to solicit bids from the targeted businesses. And then I worked with them closely to try to get more bids. And so I think through that process, they learned, right? How the process works and how to find these targeted businesses that can work on their projects. And, it is a big change from using their regular subcontractors that they've used for many years to inviting new contractors to bid on their projects and developing relationships. So we're hoping to see improvement there. We have one community development private investment TIF project going on right now, and that's the Northern Heights project, if any of you are familiar with that. And they do have $578,000 in targeted business contracts on that project. So that one was already in the works prior to us increasing the goal, but it won't happen again. They will be, and they sure can get 7%. So overall, we have had just in the last 15 months about 2.6 million in targeted business contracts, which is better than none. If we hadn't set the goals for city CIP projects, but we can do more than this. I know we can do better than this. And we're all learning and growing together through this process. The city is growing through this study. We, will be making some changes. We're also looking to the community, our ecosystem, the entrepreneur ecosystem, to work better together to help increase the number of targeted businesses and their abilities. Do any of you have questions up to this point? Because this is where my expertise leaves off and we get into the study. And I would just share, and actually Al shared the study, but someone's talking.
This
Kevin?
is Kim.
Yeah.
Yep, this is Kim. I know you mentioned a lot about target business. So can you define that a little bit? Because there's so many, within our BIPOC, the business are not mostly focusing on construction. So what are other target business that the city or DMC are looking? So this way we can kind of yep.
Thanks. That's a great question. Because that is actually a recommendation that this study did provide us, is that maybe we should or could consider other businesses, targeted businesses outside of construction, other procurement that the city or DMC might be doing. So one recommendation would be such as IT services or products. So we may be bringing that forward. We have not discussed that fully yet because we want to make sure that we are able to manage what we recommend also. Sumeda, do you have a question?
Yeah, I was just going to say, before you set the $5 million limit, did you have community input from the BIPOC community on that threshold? I'm just curious as to, or was that just the average of construction projects and you took it along?
Okay, thanks for asking. So I attended a National Transit Institute DBE goal setting class. And so when we went through the goal setting, I followed the methodology recommended by Federal Transit Institute. So the methodology included community engagement. I know Al was in some of those conversations back then, and I'd be happy to go over how those goals were established. Al, do you remember that?
Not really.
So you and Kim, Sin, and I did have a phone call meeting, and I met with a number of other groups at that time to get input on the goals, as well as to strategize on how we could build capacity in some of our community segments of our community. And it's a
Thanks,
long,
Jorrie. That's all I wanted to know. I was surprised at how high the dollar limit was, considering we're targeting BIPOC businesses.
Yep. So what we're doing is we're phasing this in so that all of a sudden we weren't just hit by like, oh, now we have like this year 20 projects to manage, right? And so we phased it in. So I don't know if you saw a couple of years ago, we had 7 projects. Those were all DMC funded projects. Last year we had 13, and this year we have 20. I'm anticipating about at least this many next year, and there could be more, right, in the future, but we have limited resources. So we're going to have to decide how we're going to manage those projects as we implement these goals on lower thresholds.
Thank you.
I have a question in terms of the way that these projects are being awarded. You ask for the submitters that they're certain whether they can qualify and be able to satisfy your criteria, right? Is that how it goes? And if and what happens if maybe they have indicated could, but later on do you do some auditing to see if in fact it happened or not? Oh.
Mm-hmm. So when a bidder submits a bid, within 5 days of their bid, they need to submit what we call their targeted business bidders list. And those are the subcontractors that they are committing a certain dollar amount to contract with. And then I calculate that to see how much how it is in the percent to their total bid, right? I also go out to the 3 different organizations that certify contractors to verify that those contractors are certified with one of the organizations that certify. And then once they prove, yes, they are going to meet our expectation, then we will recommend to City Council that they are awarded. Throughout the life cycle of the project, every single month, they need to submit a targeted business progress report. And that shows if there are any changes in those contracts and that they are paying those contractors. At the end of the project, before we release retainage to the prime contractor, they have to sign an affidavit saying that they have paid those targeted business contractors that they committed to at the beginning of the project. And like I said, if they do not meet the goal, then there is a process called good faith efforts. And they have to document everything that they have done to try to solicit bids from these businesses. And if they chose not to contract with these targeted businesses, who did they select? And why was there a lower price, or was it quality, or what was the reason? They have to justify that. It's not just a phrase, good faith efforts. It's a process. And like I said, I would rather have a prime contractor submit a bid and meet our goals than to have to work through the good faith efforts process. Although we all learn through that good faith efforts process. They learn how to find them and work on getting the bids. They improve.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So then now the rest of the presentation goes into the study itself. So if you would like to find the City Council study session on the city website, it was recorded so you can hear the presentation, what the scope of their study was and some of their recommendations. And what I really appreciated, Council President Carlson, shared at the end, is that she acknowledged, how vulnerable we had to be, because to be able to allow an outside consultant to come in and assess our internal processes and policies and procedures, we had to be open and transparent, as well as the community. The community was willing to share also, and we really appreciate that, because then we can learn and grow together. So I think I have taken up my time, unless anyone else has questions for me or Chow or Wafa was involved with this also?
I was actually hoping, Jorrie, that you could go a little bit deeper into the study itself. Some of the things that they found, in particular, I think I was interested. I was there at the study session,
Mm-hmm.
and I was
Okay.
really impressed with the notion of the complexity of contracting. That even the business could, the supplier could do the job, but they just find that going through the procurement process is daunting.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm finding that that is not just pertain to this kind of project, but we're finding in our own relationship with other organizations, in particular with I'll just highlight the fact that we're working with RCTC to do a certain thing. It turns out their contracting process is also quite complicated too.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like you to maybe highlight a little bit about some of the things that small businesses and BIPOC businesses run into in the contracting area, and what some of the things that you're thinking of helping us train, get more knowledge about navigating the complexity of government-funded projects that really require a certain amount of, due diligence and all the paperwork you got to go through, such as
Right.
bonding and surety and all that stuff.
Right.
Yep.
So of course, capital is always an issue for starting a business, right? For any type of business, people need capital. And they need access to capital. So whether it's loans or grants, and how to access those funds, and then operating capital. As you mentioned, Al, training is an issue, right? Where how to just learn how to run your business is one phase, and then learning how to bid, learning how to develop relationships with prime contractors who are doing the bidding, because the subcontractors don't at this point bid directly to the city unless they can obtain bonding at the value of the project. And at this point, we have, our smallest projects that have targeted business goals. I mean, but unless they have the bonding, they could to bond to bid on a $3 million project, which is not likely for a small business. Actually, there is a requirement of a $1.2 million in assets that the owner can have to be qualified as a small business. So most likely, if they're bidding directly on a $3 million project, they would no longer be classified as a small business. But as I said, as our thresholds decrease, there are opportunities to obtain the bonding for those lower thresholds would require us then, not just require, but an opportunity would be to unbundle some of those projects so that they don't have to bid on a $3 million project. They could just bid directly to the city on a portion of that project, right? Like, say it was just electrical, just the electrical portion of the project may be only 300,000. And they could bid specifically on that portion. And one, that is an opportunity. We will have to, and it's project by project. I'm hoping to see more unbundling on the upcoming Soldiers Field Park project. Our construction management company, Krause Anderson, is working with a consultant called Eden Resources, who is going to help them with some of that targeted business contracting in both how the packages are put together for bidding, as well as hopefully working with our community members and targeted businesses locally to learn how to bid directly on those or through the primes. I know that doesn't give you all the recommendations. Chow or Wafad, did you want to share anything else on the barriers or the recommendations?
I don't have anything to add, but I'll pass it to Chow.
Thanks, Wafa. I was just going to say, I think a really great recommendation would be to watch the study session only because we wouldn't do it justice to give like a 2-second, blurb, as opposed to really understand from the contractor, from the city, from, all of the different perspectives and how we can weave that together to make it successful. So that would be my recommendation.
In fact, I had posted on CMRC Beam the recording of it too as well. I make a YouTube recording all of it. I think it's easier to navigate via YouTube. You can navigate quickly, so people can watch that.
Okay. Well, thanks for letting me share it here with this group. You are all really important in our community and connecting with communities. And so as we go forward with this, we want to continue to hear from you, and we may even ask, for your help to connect with community members.
We actually have a little bit more time, to be honest. And anybody else, like you raise your hand. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. Yeah, my question, and I think I've asked this question before, and I had the same question also during the focus group, is the fact that I'm not a construction person. I don't do construction. But I know that, at least I do some work with the city of Minneapolis and everything. Rochester also has contracts that, somebody like me can do. I'm a consultant. So, but I don't have any information on how to do that. For example, even this specific study itself also, these are things that I do as well. But there is really no way to know where the contracts are coming out, where do we bid, how do we do all of those things? I don't have that information.
So at this point, I don't know that the city or DMC, now I do know that DMC does more contracting in your types of services, but we have not been tracking, and that we have not been tracking who we have received bids from as far as being a targeted certified business such as yours in those areas. And that is definitely something that they recommended. Here's the recommendations slide, is that we do have more equity in procurement in not just construction, and that we also do more tracking of who we are contracting with.
And
Maybe we do have some contracts. What's that?
I was going to say, Ayo, I can add to that too. Part of what they said is exactly what you're articulating, right? So as the city has projects of various kinds, how do DBEs in all the different spaces know that those exist? Do we have a centralized portal where you can not only find that information, but resources in that portal that help you navigate the process? So that's one of the recommendations they had in terms of us creating that. So if you look at number 2, there's that equity procurement team, but they also have number 4 there that talks about modifying our city website so that there is a central location. So really look forward to hopefully implementing that and then sharing that information so that folks like yourselves are able to enter the ecosystem and bid on projects.
Right. Thanks.
The comment I like to make is that even for construction projects, there may be other elements of the project that don't necessarily require a brick and mortar kind of expertise. It could be project management in general, or it's just maybe implementing some kind of workflow, some kind of technology enablement, so the project can go through more smoothly. So how do you also account for that potential for people like AO or other folks that not necessarily in the mainline construction area, but really have other contribution in a professional service that really, if you look at directly, doesn't seem like construction, but it really is a contribution to the whole project,
Right.
So I'd like you to think a bit more about that too, because the way that it's being portrayed may have discouraged some of the other services to participate.
Yep, up to this point, I agree. And only on DMC funded projects do we have these goals in professional technical services. And there are such as AO and other businesses around that have some other professional services that we could possibly contract. We as the city, DMC, or even other private or public organizations in the area. So we're growing the number of local DBEs as well as growing the opportunities. So hopefully that provides greater economic mobility for people who could benefit from that.
Somebody else got the hand raised. I don't know who.
This
Kevin?
is Kim. Yeah,
Kim?
this is Kim. Yeah. A lot of minority, owned business are in cleaning, like,
Mm.
is that something would be considered? Because there's a lot of cleaning company that,
Yeah.
are owned by minority. How do they bid for something like to clean up after the construction is done? Is that needed, or is that mostly done by construction? And how do they go through that process of bidding?
Yep. We do actually have a local woman who started a company in construction cleaning and got her business certified as minority woman owned. We as in the ecosystem are working with her very closely to make sure that she has the knowledge to be able to get a contract. In fact, Mackey Company, the one who conducted this study, is offering her some free consulting right now to do that. And what we really need is a clearer path to get from you have this business and how to win the contracts, right? But that's not guaranteed. We don't want to guarantee that because you go into business, you're going to win a contract. We are partnering with Rochester Area Economic Development, Collider, Small Business Development to do that training. And then once a business gets certified, they then get consulting free training with the PTAC. It's the Procurement Technical Assistance Center that is funded by the state. And they can then train or work with our small businesses that are certified to help them grow their business and learn how to bid. And we've had some classes in the past, but training is definitely an area we want to offer more for our local small businesses.
Yep, and training are going to be really tough because of some of the people that want to start their business, but they're also, holding a full-time job, and then most of the training are during the day. And so Ijo and I did, the global market through the SBDC training on the weekend. Is that something that the city or DMC looking to kind of provide, so this way, they're not having to kind of take time off, or
that's a great
so many
idea.
time out it's a risk for them to get fired from their job to attend something that they don't know if they can guarantee if they're going to be successful or not.
Yeah, weekend training. And like I said, Mackey Company is providing one-on-one consulting right now to this other small business. So that accommodates that business owner's schedule, which I think is ideal, right? Because each person is at a different stage with their business and their knowledge. So, but thanks for hosting. And I'd be interested also in having this discussion with you, Kim, about partnering on training.
Yep, and Ijo and I, we did, and it's more on hand-on training, showing, and not really listening session, because the listening session does not absorb well with, especially our BIPOC that are, with technology, understanding the use of technology and understanding the language. But we find out that hand-on training, through the process, it's going to be more successful. And that's what Ijo and I find out through our, kind of startup this year of business training that we did.
Yeah, that was amazing. That was so awesome. All of those Saturdays that you had, the trainings, that was great. I'd be interested to know, back to construction, if you had anyone who is interested in a construction type of business, or what we can do to recruit more, because the opportunities coming up soon now with federal funding on the rapid transit project in Rochester, are great and other projects.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, what we can do is, Kim and I also will talk to Julie with SBDC and Mark just to see how we can organize something a little more again in the future, and then we can involve you as well, so that we can be able to whoever wants to be involved, we can bring them in more and be able to increase more opportunity. And also, the last time I talked to Julie, we were talking about actually working with community community education.
Yeah.
So that we can maybe have that event through them. Maybe that will be an opportunity to really bring more people in and all the stuff. So there are many things that we are doing behind the scene, but definitely will involve you at the level that we can bring more people in.
yeah, I'd really like to work together. Thank you.
So I have a question, maybe a comment. Looking at this slide here, the recommendations of these 6 areas of recommendation, and look forward to ensuring that they are being looked into and investigated, in fact, implemented to some extent. So I think you'll find the CMRC could act as a policing, okay, can call it that way, some examiner or just ombudsman type of activity to say, you know, now that you've seen the recommendation, been presented to the city council, I guess this is only a study session. I guess at some point in time, the city council would vote or something. Is that the process to embrace or adopt the recommendation?
We have,
so yeah.
what we're thinking is we have short-term, midterm, and long-term goals, right? So this year, I already had my work plan approved for this year, but I was holding off implementing any strategies until we really got these recommendations. So now I will be able to implement some strategies based on my work plan budget that was approved for this year. The city is already, I think, right, Chow, approving the budget for next year. So it may be further out if we have large asks of the city and DMC to implement some larger types of solutions. But then there's longer term, right? And longer term goals would be working collaboratively to design a community portal that would be able to vet or to include all of the small businesses and what they're certified in and what they're certified, who they're certified by and what they can do. And then getting community organizations to put in the opportunities that for bidding into that portal. So that's kind of a longer term project.
But my question,
but there are things.
My real question is there a place where the city council has to do some further discussion or even approve or not?
Yeah,
Or
if we
do
want
we-
funding, funding.
So are you saying the existing funding already covers certain aspect, and then there's sounds like there's a plan to maybe submit some kind of further ask for more funding to implement parts of this? What's on
but
the
we
diagram?
haven't.
Okay.
But we haven't really gotten a chance to discuss it as a team, even what we want to take out of this and recommend forward. And so we haven't even gotten to the point where we don't even know what we want to recommend besides getting quotes or, you know, estimates for the cost of whatever we want to recommend. We're not there. I'd see that where we'd be working on that this year to recommend.
Sorry, Jorrie, go ahead.
What do you think? Where are we at?
Yeah, I was going to say additionally, because this is DMC and city, so this information and the report will also be shared with DMC, and then we wait for their feedback, and then we can compile recommendations that we then take to city council for them to approve. So hopefully, Al, that answers your question.
Well, the role that CMRC could play is, I think a lot of this funding requests and all that requires an amount of citizen passion to say this is something good to do. Politics always get in the way, right? So I'll encourage from a CMRC stakeholder standpoint that we would use our lever to the extent possible to influence as you bring forward the conversation and funding requests or sizing, that will play a part in it to say that we are behind your effort, so they can use it as a way to well, justify your ask from your other levels of government.
I agree with you on that one.
Mhm.
So when we get to the recommendations portion, whether it's letters of support or presently speaking out to say that you're in support of that would be appreciated.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, thank you.
All right. Well, you wanted me to talk that long, so I did. So thanks for letting me. I'll let you go for your meeting then. Have a great evening.
Yeah, thank you, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Jorrie.
Thank you, Jorrie.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'll share my screen to go.
Welcome to sorry.
Okay, so it's actually like a, let's see, back to where I was supposed to be.
Can you pass me a fork? It's a black plastic fork. Oh, so good. I gotta eat some and be real sick.
Stephanie, I think you're unmuted.
Okay, so the next set of topics really about some updating about by the way, maybe I should defer a little bit before I go into this topic of CMRC project update. That DMC, Wafa, you have anything that you want to say first, or you? Because you indicated you might want to say something. You know. Oh, you're muted. Yeah, you're muted.
I'm sorry. I said I do have just updates to share with everyone whenever it's time for it.
Okay, all right. So I'll just go ahead and do my thing, and then okay. So this is my thing. So really, it's a bit of CMRC update. Okay, a quick update. So I will touch a bit about the projects we're working on. You know, Compass. Kathy has already given us an update on that, and then the RCTC Perkins project, and also the community fall. It's actually community hall, actually, the intercultural space. Those are some projects that in our pipeline or being worked on. And then also I wanted to bring up to date a little bit about the future CMRC, how that is proceeding, and then maybe some announcement as well. Okay. So Compass, of course, has already been indicated that this slide here actually can provide you some background information if you choose to want to look at it. You know, this link here will take you there. This also link would take you to some of the pertinent information, because Kathy has already indicated we are not hearing back yet. We're waiting for a National Institute of Health. So that's that one. And the RCTC Perkins project, it becoming clear to me more and more that, in fact, that when we start off thinking that this could be simply a pretty easy thing, that even though we are willing to do the work, there is this contract part of the whole thing. It gets really complicated. This reminds me so much similarity between the contracting process with what's been presented earlier by Jorrie. You know, the notion about is particularly state government funded projects really requires some amount of due diligence, going through the business process, how the contract need to have a general contractor, and then their qualification, and all that gets in the way as well. So that is still being worked, you know, even though we have done some prior work, you know, having some meetings, but ahead of time, but we're still waiting for the contract to be in the right place so that we can further advancing the project. So, but what we have so far is, I will call it the proposal team in place. MRight, which is Emmanuel's company, is general contract service contractor, general contractor role. ACLA, Pomoja, CERT, Jorrie, and myself are part of the subcontracting infrastructure for this project. Again, we have the team are lined up, and then the proposal is now in place with RCTC's business office, but there's still some work that need to be done about the process, about the contract process. And Emmanuel, if you want to make any comment, being that you serve as the general contractor role, if you want to add anything more to that, this could be a place for you to say some word if you like.
Yeah, thank you very much, Al. Actually, today they sent me a new contract today that probably remove a lot of the barriers that has to do with insurance and everything from that. So I've gone through that, and I completed the contract. So now we are waiting for what the process will look like from Jenny, and also I'm hoping that very soon we'll be able to get that going. One of the P's that also we've tried to really see, the way the is structured in such a way, even though I'm supposed to work directly with the subcontractors, but with the way it was set up before I joined the system, so it's more like we are more like triangulating the process, whereby it's not, instead of me to work directly with the subcontractors, so Jenny will work with them, then I will provide the support in the other way. So that's kind of a triangulating process. So that should, hopefully that should start as soon as possible. So that's kind of what the updates will be. But I don't have any major update. That's just what it is right now, is the fact that at least the contract has been reviewed and resolved. So which makes it a little easier. Thanks.
Also, yeah, thank you. As a reminder too, this project really tried to promote BIPOC participation in community technical education, because it's such a good source of bringing skill capacity for BIPOC. And we're being asked to contribute to how do we help RCTC to promote BIPOC education's capability and to reach into the BIPOC community. That's what this project is about. And my slide, if you want to look deeper into what is all about, this link here takes you there. Okay. The next one is community hall. Okay. Community hall is really about the whole. There's something that started by Diversity Council, and now it's a lot of buy-in. The needs is there, and there are still conversations still ongoing, and CMRC members have indicated a affinity or wanted to follow the progression of this. So there are links here. If you can go there, you can click these links and get to the understanding what that project is all about. The whole concept really is a space, right? Space to encourage or promote cultural exchange, connect people, and a place for celebration, for education. And the uniqueness is about a food-centric enterprise model that's based on food and culture. And the whole concept, again, is owned by and programmed by community for community. So that is still the general concept. And this general concept has been brought forward previously through Diversity Council to the city, county, DMC, READY, CMRC stakeholders. So some of you are here that have heard this presentation, and in particular, developers as well. In fact, the concept has been kind of, being embraced and a lot of affinity, a lot of buy-in that something like that is helpful. So at least one developer company at one time, and it still is actually working on putting together a letter of intent to say that, yeah, this developer company say that they really want to participate and maybe add to this whole concept. They were about to draft a letter of intent, in fact, getting past their board and to present it to partners. In fact, that is still in the works. About at a certain point in time, this developer company might come and present it to CMRC about what their view of the need and what they can do to advance the intercultural space. And also, Wafa is here, okay? And Wafa is actually suggesting the fact that from DMC standpoint, there's a real estate summit on May 31st coming up. And then within the summit, there is a portion, a 5-minute portion allocated for people to do, I will call elevator speech, to present in a high level sense, what is this all about? And we're succinctly to present 5 minutes to say, and to maybe attract real estate developer or to say, okay, there's something that they want to get to know more, maybe even more to invest in this kind of a project. So there, we're gonna have a meeting with Wafa, Kimson, myself, and if anybody wants to join us, we're welcome to have a little bit of preparation, I guess, for this 5-minute, TED talk. Okay, it's gotta be really, really succinct. Gotta be really hit the main point to say that this is why we think it's a good thing, why you should care about it, and why you may want to invest in it, or maybe make some proposal about fulfilling it. Okay, so that is what. Go ahead.
Can I
Question.
interrupt? So,
Yep.
what this is being talked about? Where else are we going to? I mean, do we have like scheduling? I mean, sorry. Do we have like dates ahead of us that we can look at and see how we can support you? Not to be the ones that speak, but to be there present.
No, no dates yet. Even though if this, I thought that I've got the right link here. See if this is the right link. Okay, this now, even though this particular slide here, talks about, but this is a diversity council slide. At one time, being socialized and being introduced to various people, it does have some kind of concept about what the timeline is. Okay, so you look at this here. So it's a really, but this is really a conceptual level, to be honest. Really, we don't really have any definite date. Okay? So I think the key thing really is really to focus on, I believe, this part, the real estate summit. Okay, do we put together a 5-minute talk that really to really succinctly elevate a speech to advertise or promote and really get to the point of saying that why is this thing good, right? That would be by May 31st, or earlier than that, hopefully, we would have a pitch that we can share with your, if anybody wants to be part of the conversation, also be presented to, pitch to, we're welcome the opportunity to do that. Okay. So I guess there'll be some deadline, if you're looking at May 31st, I would assume that, by mid-May, we should have a good elevator speech slide deck, 5-minute long, that's all you have to tell the story about why this is good. And I already started thinking about it more and more, and so that's one timeline. Okay. Another timeline is this developer company, right? That I can also, Sherman is the developer company, but I'm not going to put the title here. They are really interested in pursuing this, and they actually interested in maybe coming to CMRC around June timeframe, or June or July timeframe, to really present what they're thinking about. So that's another timeline. Okay. Maybe your question that to do, maybe more about the logistics, which is quite complicated in terms of. Let me go back here. Let me make it bigger, a little bigger. This thing here. So what is, I guess we need, let's see. Well, there's something here. Yeah. So if you look at some of the things that need to do, really make it real, to be honest, we need to have some formalization, commitment, for yourself. For example, how many people would sign up, at least a letter of intent to say that, yeah, ACLA maybe, or a Cambodian or Somali group to say, yep, that's an indication that they want to be part of the conversation. You can call letter of intent or indicating a strong commitment to do this. It's non-binding, but at least it shows that officially you understand the project, you are really interested in following it through. Okay, that we need to do that, because just think about it. If the developer creates space, and they would expect certain amount of ownership from people that might occupy the space, right? There need to be some indication. There is some general interest from certain groups to say that if this space is available, the organization like this, a list of organizations may be a good target to be a renter or leaser, or being occupant of that space, right? So that we should have that conversation to formalize that. I don't know if maybe this shorthand way of answering your question, Miriam, really is that it's still very, very sketchy, okay, to be honest. And maybe I'll just stop a little bit of get your comment to see what your interest level is, if there's that, that you want to comment on.
I wanted to add that the interest comes from different avenues, like what Kim talked about, the cleaning services, it's one, but the food services is one that it's about culture, how we can all join in culture. And that in the past, we wanted it to be funded by the art and cultures funding. And it's just that, to be ready. But then we don't want to be rejected anymore. So it's kind of one of those things that you're talking about, to have the best shot to be ready for it.
Make sure you understand, this is about really creating a space, right? That a cultural hall, cultural mall. Okay.
Mhm.
So that is a food centric and cultural programming centric, but the concept has to be sustainable, right? So
Well,
that you have some startup investor to get the space there, but really needs to be a business is go in there to sustain it while
the
yeah.
the theater, no, the castle, the owner of the castle, the one that has a majority owning that building of the castle, he brought us the idea again, because Cameo left, and they have the kitchen. I don't know what has happened, because it's been a year that we visited. And this is the concept that we talk about it. Let's say we wanted that in the castle about
Yeah.
5 years ago. So again, this concept of having a intercultural community center is exactly what we back then were talking about. It kind of more into the arts, but it's what brings us together again. The music, the
So sounds like sounds like you feel there's a need for this
oh,
space. Yeah,
there is a
yeah,
need,
yeah,
and
yeah.
there is the space could be there, or again to the castle. I don't know what has happened in a year, but he
I-
offered again that he will rent the space for that concept, the castle, and they have the commercial kitchen, they have everything, and they have the upstairs area open for parties.
I would just In the interest of time, I want to make sure that there are several options that are being looked into. And I don't want to, at this time, share everything necessarily. But I think council obviously is one possibility, but actually that was actually looked into before by this group of people, by diversity council. Okay. So anyway, let hold that thought of obviously, okay. So somebody else got Gloria. So Gloria, you raise your hand. Yeah.
Yes, and thank you. I'm sorry, I don't come always to these meetings, so sorry if I ask something that you guys already talked, but this looks like the world market from Minneapolis, right? Minneapolis have the world market and is very much based on different ethnic groups, and they have their offices to provide services if necessary, just to support the different ethnic group community. And I look at this many years ago because I have that ambition to open a world market as well. And as ACLA, I just want to very quick. ACLA has been find many barriers to continue doing any services or any some things that we wish to do, just because we don't have a physical space, we don't have an address, we don't have a place where people can come to us. Even when we are or ask for a grant, we need to have at least so many hours, so many places. So I just want to thank you for doing this and for including us, because we really need this, and I just want to make sure that we continue the conversation, and I would love to be included in the conversation for the speech, if possible. But thank you.
Oh yeah, it's totally possible. Obviously, the interest of creating a space, the real estate developer and all that, they can create a space if they know that first of all there's an interest, there's a need for this kind of space, and also there's potential organizations to say, yep, if you have a space like that, I will be there. At least from a letter intent, some intention of good faith intention to work with it. So anything that you can indicate a interest in participating would be re-added to the presentation of this idea. Okay. So let's go back here. Anybody else have any comment before I go further? I know Kim Sin, if he's still here, should be is interested. This thing. You can think about the global market that Kim has been doing at Ani Hall. If we can have it, all these events, these programs in this space, that would make it more steady and more steady in terms of attracting more people and all that, right? So the space would be really good for that kind of thing. All right, so the next thing is the future of CMRC, right? So the CMRC, and I was on vacation last month, or actually the first week of April, and really couldn't get a meeting together for the CMRC steering committee members. And to validate, we really want to get us together to really look at, to really validate, have some really heart-to-heart talk about how to continue CMRC. In light of the fact that we have lost the support, the administration support from Diversity Council. Okay, because so we need to get together to have that heart-to-heart talk. The way I look at it, we need to validate, what our CMRC purpose is. The whole idea about empowering the minority groups, BIPOC groups, or disadvantaged groups, or underrepresented groups, build a one voice. Is it still the right purpose? To validate that. And also I feel that we need to have some distinct differentiation from other similar kind of endeavors that are happening in our community. I've highlighted a few of them. And United Way's got the Thriving Community project, That's what United Way has. They have all these things, some of their what they do, seem to have certain similarity to CMRC. Okay. And then, Roger Air Foundation also got the DEI practitioner effort. And what they do is they convene these meetings, okay? And then they combine all these efforts, questions, and so forth. So there is some synergy and overlap with potentially what CMRC wants to do. Long story short is really, we need to really be differentiated, really be sure that CMRC has some unique positioning for for the way that it works. So I think that there's some consensus prior meeting that CMRC is different. What's different about CMRC? We sort of play a I would say advocacy role. We're not we there's if there we embrace if there find some efforts initiatives that we support. We want to have advocacy. We want to be dependent. We don't want to be beholden to some kind of funder. That, for example, if you live under I'm kind of hypothetically saying that if you're under United Way's sponsorship, you may be constrained the way that we articulate your advocacy. And if you live under Area Foundation, you may be a little constrained too. So the governance model for CMRC may be different from these other projects. Okay, so we need to talk about that. And then also, as Kim has mentioned, and I've witnessed too, we have bandwidth consideration. Okay, all of you here, okay, have multiple things that we do. Okay. So I would somehow challenge all of us to think, do we really have the bandwidth to drive CMRC forward, without a administration support structure? Yeah, typically for collective impact project, you really need to have some kind of staff admin support to make it going, to really sustain it. Okay, so that's something that we need to talk about, basically, future CMRC. I'll pause a little bit to see if anybody has any comment. Here, none. Okay, so now next thing is really I just want to have my slide has some partner announcement. Okay, Jorrie. In fact, this link here takes you there. Jorrie will award $1,000 scholarship for both Mr. and Mrs. Juneteenth, apparently. So if this link here takes you to the announcement that Juneteenth have, okay. So just want to make the community aware of it, okay. All right, so that is this part, CMRC update, quickly. Now, Wafa, if you want to say a few words about DMC or you want to share with CMRC, please go ahead. Yeah.
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Wafal Khalifa, and I work with DMC as the Equitable Development Coordinator. I have a couple announcements to share with you all. Let me share my screen here quickly. Just 1 second. All right. So next Thursday, everyone, are you able to see my screen? If I can get a yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So the Chamber of Commerce Business After Hours, DMC will be hosting the Business After Hours on the 27th of April. It will be a networking opportunity. And because we're inviting students from UMR, the event will be alcohol free. And also, if it's a barrier for some communities, the event will be alcohol free. It will be from 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. at 2 Discovery Square. And just from working with DMC for the past year and a half, I see that we're missing the presence of BIPOC communities. And those events they do serve very well business owners to network and to connect and to build relationships. So I hope that you pass the message, especially to business owners in downtown within the DMC district. So that's the first thing that I wanted to share. And then the second item is we are hosting a graduation celebration for the community co-design facilitators, uh, facilitator training participants, May 4th from 7 to 8 p.m. at the Rochester City Hall atrium. I think I did send the invitation to you, Al, and to several members of the CMRC. And I can provide you with all these links. So if you want to share them on your website, the graduation is to celebrate the 7 participants who attended the training for the past 4 months. It was a total of 25 hours. So as you're considering or hearing in conversations in the community about the need of doing a co-design project, this event will give you the opportunity to connect with some of these new co-design facilitators. That's one of the ways that we're trying to build capacity in the community by creating an opportunity for some members to gain knowledge of how they can facilitate a co-design, and it can end up being very successful. And so yeah, we would love for you to come in there. There'll be light refreshments, and it's 7 to 8 p.m. May 4th at the Rochester City Hall atrium. And there is a registration. It's free, but I will send you all the links so we can keep an eye on the attendees. We would love for all of you to be there. And if you know someone who's thinking about co-design, or you've heard of a co-design, pass this event so we can connect with them. And then
this event
go ahead.
This event is also on the Beam website. Okay.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much, Al. I know, like, anything I send over to you, you always post. So I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And then just a reminder again about the Main Street Grant Round 2. Round 1 is ending, which it was specifically for businesses within the DMC district. But round 2, everyone, covers areas with a partnership with Ready. It covers areas here in the 7th Street. And I know this area has a lot of our BIPOC businesses. A lot of BIPOC businesses are in this area, which is 7th Street, across from where used to be the Diversity Council and Northgate. So any businesses in this area would qualify to apply to receive 30% of the cost of capital improvements to their business. And then the second area that is under the grant is this area here, which is the Eastwood, like near the Eastwood Plaza in Southeast Rochester. And so far, we had a very minimal amount of applicants, and we did not receive enough BIPOC applicants. And this grant is $1 million coming from Minnesota Deed. And so our team in DMC is looking to do some door knocking in person. If you know some of these businesses and you want to join us, that would be really awesome. So you can help us communicate the message if they see someone that they trust, so they can trust what we're sharing with them. We want to ensure that this money goes to our BIPOC businesses. So I look at all of you to help me with that. And then the item here is this page here, the DMC events page. And I've been sharing information about the Downtown Rochester Task Force that have had several meetings to understand what are the barriers for businesses in downtown post-COVID pandemic. And so this is the second phase of the task force meetings. We are hosting we're hosting 3 of them. One of them is virtual. And so I encourage any BIPOC businesses that they have a business in downtown right now, and they went through the pandemic and they're seeing the effects and they would like to share their input, to please attend one of these sessions. And then May 25th, we have the Open Public DMC Corporation Board meeting. It's always held in the Mayo Civic Center, and it is available online too. So if you want to attend it online, if you're unable to attend it in person, I encourage for you to attend it virtually. There is also the recording of it. It would be available also on the DMC website, but live as it's happening, it gives you the opportunity if you want to make a comment, or because there is a public, an open public comment time devoted in the meeting. And so I would love to see some of our community leaders to be there to hear about the latest projects and initiatives DMC is leading to ensure that our BIPOC communities are, um, you know, staying up to, with all the updates and everything that's happening. And then just like Al mentioned earlier, that we have the Real Estate Summit that we will be hosting on May 31st. The summit program itself, as you see, it's from 11 to 2:30, so it's not a long day. But after 2:30, we're planning to create several tours, tour options, a tour focusing on housing, a tour focusing on health, medical technology. So then we would head to the Discovery Square district and so forth. So yeah, the Real Estate Summit will have that opportunity for some of our community organizations and nonprofits that they have been talking about projects like the intercultural hall, to advocate for their project, to share a 5-minute pitch. It could be longer because when we say 5 minutes, it could be a little short, but I'm hoping that we can extend it a little further. And it gives you an opportunity to connect with real estate developers, real estate investors who are looking to invest into projects. And so we thought it would be a good idea to add that, because we don't want to see more of the development opportunities happening in Rochester happening without including the voices of our BIPOC communities. And then the last thing that I wanted to share with you all, as we're concluding the co-design facilitator training, and we're having the graduation that I shared with you all May 4th, we will be looking to start a new cohort to train additional, and we would love to have about 8 individuals to train them to become co-design facilitators. And we're looking for suggestions. If you have someone within the CMRC group who would like to commit to the 20 to 25 hours over 4-month period, starting June, ending in September, to get the training to become a community co-design facilitator, that would be really awesome. I welcome any suggestions and just email them to me. And I think that's everything. And hopefully I see you in April 27th, because I would love to see business owners, BIPOC business owners, to come to these networking opportunities, to be there. So hopefully I get to see you there. Thank you.
There's a question though about
Yes.
co-designing.
Mhm.
There, yet when we had the meeting in terms of really the co-designed steering committee, can call it, that there
Mhm.
was this notion about creating a document repository, right? That either Google Doc or something like that, Dropbox, whatever. How is that
Yes.
coming? You know, I'm looking forward to that because there's so many a lot of these projects going on that co-design would be interesting to know, to see what they are.
Sure. We did have a Dropbox that we used internally between me, Kevin Bright, and Jess Roberts. And so we were ready to share that, but we do have some update regarding the Rochester Community Co-Design website. We're working on that, and we're hoping that we launch it soon. So we're working really hard on it, where you'll find all the reports, all the dates about co-design training, new co-design projects. So we're pushing that through to happen, and we will be launching it soon.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so it's just a few minutes past 6 o'clock. And anybody else have any comment or nothing else, and we should call it today otherwise. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. Yep.
Thank you,
Good,
Wafa,
good.
for all the information. And it's gonna be in your platform, isn't it? In the BIM?
Yep, it will be.
Yes, good.
Recording will be there too. Hopefully I got it right this time.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Thank
See
you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.